Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Office Hours with Jess. I have been teasing that I am transitioning in my career, and today is actually the last day of my Stanford postdoctoral fellowships. So I thought I would share with you all the three main takeaways or the main things I learned while being a Stanford postdoc. Now, this video, I could just go on and on about sort of all the hard skills I learned. I learned how to write grants. I learned how to submit IRB applications. I learned how to create materials to be on the job market. All very important things that I gained in the past 2 years while doing my postdoctoral fellowship. But I really want to talk today about some of the things that I learned beyond sort of what's on paper, some things I wasn't expecting to learn in these past 2 years. And here's what they are. Number one, expect the unexpected. I know, super cliche, but it truly captures my postdoc experience. I cannot tell you how many times I have done something tried to follow a plan, tried to follow a timeline, and it did not go the way I planned. I think in graduate school, I had been accustomed to creating a plan, being really organized, having control over a lot of things, and that brought me a lot of success as a student. But those don't always roll over to what life is like after a student. And I had a lot of things happen to me. Again, if you've watched my videos in the past 2 years, I might have hinted at them, but just things I didn't expect. Grants being kicked back to me, grants being withdrawn, job interviews not going the way that I want, being surprised by other things. Truly, I think that as a postdoc, I've had to learn not to rely so much on planning every little thing out and just letting things be. Things are going to happen, and it is so hard for me because, as you all know, I am so type A. I need control. I want to be organized. I love planning. So it was really hard to learn how to or unlearn all of that and realize that sometimes being super organized, being super planned doesn't always help you emotionally in every situation. You still don't need to be really organized, really hardworking, really, have control and all of that to create good grants, write good papers, do your research. Yes, like that is still an important part of succeeding. But I think in the overall grand scheme, I had to learn how to let go a little bit of that control and just let things play out as they will. And that's very hard. And it was very hard for me to learn that. And I'm still not convinced I've learned it. I'm figuring it out. Okay, number two. This one's more straightforward, but I found out that I love teaching and mentoring. I mean, I sort of knew that. And as a postdoc, I was given the advice, oh, you don't really need to teach as a postdoc. It's like sort of your protected time to just do whatever you want to advance your training. But to me, that included getting more teaching experience. So finally, as a postdoc, I had the opportunity to actually teach my own course where I was the lead instructor. I created the syllabus. I was the head of everything for that teaching that course. And I found out how much I loved it. So I would really recommend, I know you may or may not be given the same advice I was and say, you don't need to do teaching as a postdoc, but I would really encourage you to get some more kind of individual leading a course yourself experience versus just TA experience, because that's something that's really going to stand out when you're applying for jobs in the future. Having just TA to class does not look the same as actually being the course instructor. So if you are able to have the opportunity where you can teach a course on your own, I would highly recommend it. And then you might discover that you love teaching and mentoring like me too. So I'm really excited to continue on this path of teaching and mentoring as part of my lifelong career. And finally, third, I found out this also sort of the hard way, but it is so much easier being a student than being a postdoc. And this is kind of related to that first point of like expecting the unexpected. I think as a student, there's just so much that is sort of prescribed to you, like you know exactly what you need to do to get to the next step. And as a postdoc, it's not quite as clear. You don't have sort of very clear exams, benchmarks, dissertations, deliverables that get you to your end goal, which is getting a PhD or getting your degree. As a postdoc, it's more open, and that can be a little scary. And it was scary for me. And I felt like this was the first time I was really like an adult, because I wasn't a student anymore. And as a student, you are protected in some way. And I think that that was something I took for granted when I was a PhD student. Because when I was a PhD student, I was just like, oh my gosh, I just want to get my PhD and be done with this education part of my journey. But I didn't realize that once I was done with that, there was this whole new challenge of like, okay, how do I actually take my degree and then move on to the next part of my career? And so being a postdoc was this sort of weird limbo for me where I felt like I wasn't at my next step yet, but I wasn't a student anymore. And that was a hard place for me to be. So that's also something I learned and wasn't expecting to learn, and wanted to share that with you all too, that yes, like being a postdoc is great, but it also came with some anxiety for me as well. And still had a very productive and very worthwhile 2-year postdoc, but it took a lot to sort of learn what that journey was going to look like for me to create the training experience that I wanted with, in collaboration with my mentor, and find that structure so that I felt like I was moving on to the next thing and always had that end goal in mind. So that was something that I wasn't expecting as well. So enjoy your time being a student. I know that it's hard. The classes are hard. The dissertation's hard. It's stressful, but it is a really nice golden protected time, and I miss it every day. And those are my 3 key takeaways. And I hope that you learned something from me, sort of just sharing my thoughts about my postdoc. But these are the true thoughts that no one ever told me before I started my postdoc. So I wanted to share this with you all. So again, if you enjoy these videos, if you enjoy hearing my thoughts and learning about my academic journey, don't forget to like and smash that subscribe button. And I will see you on another episode of Office Hours with Jess in a new career. See you soon.